Does life sometimes feel like you're in a boat in the middle of the ocean with no land in sight, and the sea is rough, and there's swells, and your boat is being rocked side to side, front to back, and you don't know whether you're going to ever see the shore again? You don't know whether you're going to survive this ordeal. You don't know whether your boat is going to capsize at any time, because the swells are just coming and coming, and they are getting bigger and bigger, and you're right there in the middle and all lost. Does your life feel like that sometimes? Does your life feel like that because of all the uncertainty around you? Maybe it's uncertainty around your job or your career or your studies or your relationships. It could be any number of things. But I think we all find ourselves in that situation where we are surrounded by uncertainty and we feel like we are lost at sea. Now, this week I was reading a book. It's called The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. And the story is about an old man who found himself in exactly the same situation. But for him, it was by choice, because it had been a very long time, about almost 3 months, when he hadn't caught a fish. And he decided one morning he's going to go out and he's going to catch one no matter what. And as he set off on his little skiff, on his little boat, he went out a little into the ocean, and suddenly he hooked something, and he realized that it was something huge. It turned out it was a marlin, and this fish was so huge that it dragged him out to sea. It dragged him with his boat and everything out to sea, and he continued going for 3 days, 3 nights, and I think it was 3 nights. And the old man, he decided to stick it out. I mean, at any time he could have cut the line and let the fish escape. But he found himself in that situation where it had been such a long time since he caught anything considerable, and he was not going to let this one go because he's hooked one after such a long time. So he said, "Come what may, I'm gonna do this." And so he found himself out there in the ocean, no food to eat, just a little bit of water which he carried for half a day probably, but now he has to survive on it for 3 days. Now, what I like about the story, and if you look at the reviews on YouTube, even if you read it yourself, it's a novella. It's a short story. It probably take you about 3 hours to read. What I like about it is that his life was very, very similar to the situation he found himself in the boat in. He was extremely poor, and there was a lot of, there were a lot of challenges. There were a lot of uncertainty in his life, and he was looking for something. He was looking for peace in his life, and for him, that peace would come from achieving something, and that achievement would be in the form of catching a big fish. And so he put his mind to it, and he realized that, come what may, no matter how far this fish takes me, I'm going to continue until it's tired, and then I'm going to pull it in, and then I'm going to find that success. And so the story is actually very, very interesting, but the lessons to be learned there are more important, if I may say so, than the story itself. Now, life is like that sometimes. We set out to do something, we set out to achieve something, and we set some goals for ourselves: that big fish to catch, that job to land, that career, that person I want to hook up with as my life partner, that business I want to start, just like the fish. And we find ourselves not too long after that in a situation where we find that things are starting to become rocky. We find that suddenly there's challenges now. And that's the time when our resolve is tested, when we are really and truly tested. That, have you truly, really committed to this? Because if you are not, then you are going to quit and you're going to jump out. But if you are committed to it, then no matter what happens, come what may, no matter what challenges there are, no matter the fact that you were ill-equipped for this, no matter the fact that you didn't have sufficient knowledge or sufficient wisdom to do this, but you put your mind to it and you stick it out. Now, those people generally tend to succeed. those people who can navigate that uncertainty and find peace, comfort, harmony within that chaos that's going on around them until such a point they find success. Now, that is the secret of life, that no matter what life throws at you, that no matter what kind of swells and waves you face, no matter how far into the ocean you find yourself, you still have faith that I'm going to stick this out and I'm going to succeed. And the further you go out, the more life challenges you, the stronger your resolve gets until you find that success. And if you don't have a strong enough resolve, like so many people we see, you will drop out. So if you want to go on a diet, you want to become more fit, you want to learn something, you want to study something, you want to qualify in something, you want to land a job, you want to start a business, you want to do whatever, you need to be firmly resolved that I'm going to do this despite all the challenges. Now, for me, business has been very challenging, no doubt about it. And I mention this quite often. It's only to make you realize that a lot of what we see and hear on social media, we watch YouTube videos, we read articles by people who somehow within a short space of time they succeeded in their businesses, and now they are boasting about it and they're saying, look at me, I started a business, I did this, I went up and up and up and I've succeeded. Good luck to them. But 9 out of 10 times, it does not work out like that. 9 out of 10 times, business will challenge you in every possible way, particularly emotionally. It will take its toll on you emotionally. Now, I'm not trying to discourage you from doing business. No. Anything in life that's worth getting is going to challenge you in any way, in every way. And business is one of those things, one of those endeavors that are very challenging. So I don't want you to fall into the trap of thinking that life and business are going to be like that. That relationship you want is going to work out like a rom-com. That business you want is going to work out like how these guys say on social media. Some of these gurus, these so-called gurus, that sporting achievement, that weightlifting achievement, that fitness achievement is going to happen quickly through some miracle solution. It's not going to happen like that. What's going to happen is you're going to have to be firmly resolved that I want this. And then you're going to have to put in the work. And then you are going to be tested. And then you're going to be finding yourself confused, uncertain, out to sea with the swells rocking you from all sides. And then you're going to have to endure that. And then you are going to have to fight through all of that. And then on the other side of it, you will find success. Now, I started my business after leaving my job. Actually, I was fired from my job. And in case you're wondering, it's because I called my boss an idiot. I found myself in business, and I knew at that point that after I got fired, that I didn't want to go back into the corporate world. I didn't want to work for someone because I hated corporate culture. I hated that office politics. I hated people throwing each other under the bus. I hated the whole toxic culture of the company that I worked for. And I only realized that after speaking to colleagues that it wasn't unusual. It was more usual, that more likely that I would end up in a similar scenario no matter which company I worked for. Yes, there are some gems out there. There are some companies out there that it's an absolute pleasure to work for because there's good, strong leadership, there's positive culture where you will feel valued. But those were very, very hard to find. And those people who are working for companies like that know it, and they don't leave in a hurry. So it's very hard to get in. At that point in my life, I realized I want to start my business. Well, I had started it as a side gig, but I realized that I think I'm going to stick this one out. I think I'm going to work towards growing this business, and I stuck with it. And it's been quite a ride. There's been some extremely rewarding moments. I mean, extremely rewarding moments. And then there've been very, very challenging moments, to the point that even I had withdrawal symptoms at certain points where I felt like perhaps I should maybe consider getting into a job again. But then I quickly chased those thoughts away and I continued. and things sorted themselves out, things resolved themselves. And I found myself back in control and enjoying my business again. But it happens to everyone that we have doubts, we have uncertainties, we start to doubt ourselves, we start to doubt our decisions. Recently, I had a dream that I was in a spaceship like the Starship Enterprise, and we were way out, somewhere out in the galaxy, light years away from Earth, and our spaceship was badly damaged. But we managed to do some minor fixes, just enough to get us to the nearest Class M planet. Now, a Class M planet in science fiction is a planet that is habitable by human beings. So we located this planet, and our ship, vibrated and limped its way towards there, and we finally arrived at that planet. And there we found a group of people living there, humans, who were in a pre-industrial era, a pre-technological era. These were people who were still hunters and gatherers. And so we arrived there, these advanced human beings in their spaceship. But by that time, our spaceship was already failing on us, and there was no way we could go back to Earth, and there's no way we could communicate with Earth, and there was no way we could survive on our spaceship. So we had to go down to the planet and start living with those people, and start living like those people, cooking our food on fire, hunting, gathering, and things like that. And so I got up the next day, and I wondered to myself, where did this come from? Where did this dream come from? Why am I dreaming something like this? And then I realized perhaps there's this deep desire within myself to just live a simple life, a life without complications, a life without technology, a life like they used to live back in the days. I guess that's also coming from stress, uncertainty in business. I mean, business is stressful. My business is extra stressful because we are playing on the cutting edge of technology, and technology is changing all the time. You know how it is with artificial intelligence. So anyways, nice dream, but do I want to go back? Will I go back to that given a choice? I don't think so. Maybe there's that deep desire within me, but it doesn't mean it's something I have to naturally live by. It's something that could be there, but by me giving up everything that I've built would be a great disservice to myself, to my students, to my family, to all those people who trust me and who rely on me. And that's the reality of life. There are lots of times when we decide, maybe we think we want to do something, we want to quit, we want to move it up, we want to do something different. But then we have to look around us and look at all the people who are depending on us, who are looking up to us, who are relying on us, who have faith in us. And then we think about letting them down. And then we think to ourselves, no, this is not going to happen. I have to stick around for the people around me. Now you have to often weigh this against what you yourself desire versus what other people expect of you. I'm not saying to go always one or the other, one way or the other. But what I am saying is that we as human beings, we are part of families, we are part of relationships, we are part of communities, and we can't make decisions, unilateral decisions, without considering the people around us, without considering their feelings. We can't run away to a primitive planet or to one, deserted island and live out our years there, as much as sometimes we think about that. And I'll confess, I do think about that sometimes, and it gives me a sense of comfort. But then I'm back in real life, and I realize that there's just too much going on for me right here in my life. Now, then the question is, right, we understand we can't run away, we can't escape. Escapism is nice to an extent, but it's not realistic. We can't permanently escape. So we're going to have to cope with all this uncertainty. We're going to have to find ways to find peace and tranquility in the middle of the stormy seas. How do we do that? Now, in my life, I found that there are 6 things that really, really help me. And this is not something out of ChatGPT. This is not something, I Googled up. This is my own life, my own experience. Now, the first thing I found that really helped was to completely avoid sensory overload. Now, what does this mean? You know, a lot of times, and you'll understand what I'm saying here. A lot of times, when I'm feeling stressed out and anxious, the first thing that comes to my mind is to pick up my phone and go on social media. Maybe just check the status, check what's going on there, and slowly start scrolling. That's bad. You know, we think that maybe I'll just keep myself entertained long enough for this anxiety to go away, or maybe I might just find a solution to my problem there. But that's not always the case. A lot of times we end up coming out feeling more stressed and more anxious, and that's not a good thing. So avoid sensory overload when you are feeling that uncertainty and that anxiety is arising within you. The last thing you want is more technology. So what do you do? Second thing, read a book like The Old Man and the Sea. Read a good book or do a course. Learn something, even if you have to spend an hour or two watching some tutorial. Just do that. And you'll be surprised how much that reduces your anxiety. Learning is, and this works for me, right? Learning puts me in a Zen state. It helps to reduce my anxiety. It helps me to feel a lot more stable in uncertain times. And it also builds up my self-esteem. It builds up my self-confidence. And I think that that's a universal thing. I think that will work for you. So pick up a book and read. Maybe you're not much of a reader, but get in the habit of reading. Or watch a tutorial on something that interests you. Not necessarily a documentary, right? There's a fine line between learning and entertainment. So learn and upgrade yourself. That will go a long way towards making you, giving you that inner peace. The next thing is spirituality, mindfulness, meditation. In this time we are living in, you know, this atheistic mindset that we are living in these times of atheism, Darwinism, almost nobody talks about spirituality. People are afraid to talk about spirituality because you might sound backward, you might sound like a religious nut, that you believe in the man in the sky or something. That's what they accuse you of. But these are the people who are suffering the most because there is nothing to stand on. There are no grounds to stand on. You see, we as human beings, we are spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings by nature. And so when you get spiritual, when you sit down and you meditate, wake up at 5 a.m., wake up at 6 a.m., spend 20 minutes just alone, just meditating, put the damn phone away, put the computer away, put the gaming console away, and just spend some time alone. Walk in nature if you have to, but just meditate, and you'll find instantly that anxiety level going down, and you'll find a sense of inner peace bubbling up. And you will enjoy it so much. Maybe not initially, because for a lot of people, they tell me that sitting around doing nothing for even 2 minutes is like death. They need to be at it all the time. They need that sensory overload. But that's not helping you. That's not helping you. It's not helping you to grow. It's not helping you to become a better person. It's not helping you to learn anything new. It's not reducing your anxiety. It's not giving you a sense of peace. It's just confusing your mind more. The next one is take care of yourself. Be careful what you eat and keep your body fit. Because a lot of times, and a lot of people don't realize this, that we might feel what is possibly anxiety, but it's just the physical manifestation of anxiety. For example, if you drink too much of coffee, immediately your heart rate goes up because of the caffeine content. When your heart rate goes up, sometimes your mind interprets that as something emotional, as anxiety. But meantime, it's not psychological, it's physiological. In the same way, when we eat unhealthy foods, when we are a bit overweight, when we are under-exercised, we start feeling tired, lethargic, a little dull in the brain. If we sleep late, get up late, we feel dull in the brain. And this doesn't help. This just makes our situation worse, throws us into that spiral more and more and more. So take care of yourself, eat well, sleep well, exercise, be fit, because if a fit body equals a fit mind. The fifth thing for me is don't fight alone. Surround yourself with people who will carry you when you are down, who will pick you up when you are down, who you can go and pour your heart out to and say, look, I'm going through a tough time now. I just need to vent, or I just need some advice. So whether it's somebody in your family or a partner, spouse, a mentor, find someone who will not just hold you accountable, but somebody who will be your strength at the time you need it. And finally, the one thing that keeps me going is, instead of just passing time watching Netflix or social media, is having a hobby. And my hobby is coding and reading. Those are my two hobbies. I love doing that. And when I'm feeling stressed out, anxious, I just apply myself to either one of those, and I just find that anxiety going down, 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 and that I find peace in that. They say when you're doing something you truly love, you go into a flow state, or a state where time just seems to stop. And maybe you might sit there for hours and not knowing that hours have passed. You know, one parent, when I used to teach kids to code, one parent called me one day and he said, you know, I don't know what you've done to my son. I said, what happened? He said when he starts coding, he gets so caught up into it that he even forgets he needs to go to the toilet. And finally, when he gets that code working, he realizes I need to go to the toilet. And he runs straight to the toilet. So that's what you call a flow state. So if you find a hobby that puts you into that flow state, that's very, very powerful. So in conclusion, if you want to succeed in business, in your job, in life, you need to learn to find peace in the middle of chaos, in the middle of uncertainty and confusion. Because that's the nature of life. I promise you, no matter how old you get, no matter how successful, how wealthy you get, life is always going to give you uncertainties. It's always, that's the one certainty about life, the uncertainty. And we as human beings, the constant challenge for us is to find peace, to find contentment within that uncertainty, to learn to deal with that uncertainty. And the best way to deal with that uncertainty is to deal with ourselves, with how we manage it, because we can never truly make that uncertainty go away.